Trey Friedrich, and I will be presenting on the Johnstown flood, which is a book written by David McCullough. And it recounts the events of the deadliest disaster in America's history up until that point. In 1889, in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, a upriver dam called the South Fork Dam failed after many days of extensive rain. The reservoir that was collected by the dam created Lake Conemaugh, which a resort was built around, owned by very affluent American families at the time, the Carnegies, the Mellons, and the Fricks, to name a few. Essentially, after the rainfall, during the rainfall, the dam failed and the water rushed 14 miles downriver and destroyed many townships, and including Johnstown at the bottom of the basin. It gathered trees and additional man-made debris as it made its way down the river, and at the bottom, waves up to 60 feet were rushing at 40 miles per hour, and it took a lot of people by surprise as this happened in the afternoon, so many people were working. Many people were at their homes. Johnstown at the time had a population of about 30,000, and ultimately over 2,200 people were killed, the majority of them coming from Johnstown. The causes of the flood essentially was the South Fork Dam to break. So the dam had been built 20 years prior to the flood by the state of Pennsylvania and was poorly maintained and neglected by the owners, those affluent families who owned the resorts and the land around the dam, including the dam. They tried to improve and repair the dam along the way as they owned it, but essentially that caused more damage than good. Weather was also a huge factor. There were many days of rainfall leading up to the dam failing. Some days up to 10 inches were recorded, which is unprecedented in the area. The lake overfilled and went atop the dam and made the dam fail. Some additional things that aided to the extensive flooding and devastation disaster that happened in Johnstown specifically were due to the adjustments that they made to the rivers. So Johnstown was placed between the river Little Conemaugh and Stony Creek. Essentially, as the township grew, they required more land for industry to be created. The town had steel and coal mills within it, and it was a thriving industrial area. But they narrowed the riverbeds to create more land to build more buildings and industry on top of, and narrowing riverbeds allows for an increased flooding potential within that area. So there weren't a lot of changes in policy at all in terms of the United States Code, but it did lead to strict liability adoption in American court systems. Essentially, the victims of the flood who survived were not successful in their suits to be able to be filed against the owners of the dam and the land that caused the flooding due to negligence, because their assets were shielded as they were managed from their own liability. But strict liability was adopted after this, and essentially that states that a person is legally responsible for the consequences flowing from an activity even in the absence of fault or criminal intent. That didn't impact this disaster, unfortunately. The book overall is very, very good. The author paints a really good picture. David McCullough does a great job. He's written a number of books on a lot of different areas in history. He really immerses the reader in this one. He includes firsthand accounts and interviews from people of the day. It really paints a good picture of the story. It's very poignant. He also includes a little section in the middle of the book that includes pictures, and it shows members of the affluent families who owned the dam, and pictures of the devastation of the disaster and the damage. it's a good way to pull you out of reading and looking at what actually happened. The only weakness that I could really see was there's a very thorough analysis of the town population. He broke down the demographics, who worked there, how they worked there. Again, that goes into the painting of the picture of the town itself. So I understand that's necessary, but it's just a little bit of a slog getting through it at the beginning. But overall, it was a very good book, and I recommend everybody to read on it to learn more about this disaster.